Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, I'm actually really excited for the conversation that we're going to have because this is a good friend of mine, Chad Ramos, that's on the show today. But I am guessing that most of you have maybe never heard about what we're going to talk about today. It is a new topic that I don't ever really talk about on my Instagram, but it's something that I want to get out there and let people know that this is available. And so I've brought Chad to the show to teach us all about this. And so welcome to the show, Chad.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Before we dive into the topic and the content, I do want to set the stage here that I truly believe that you and I sitting down having this conversation is going to save hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. And we'll get into that of why I think that, but I am super fired up. Thank you, Carlin. Excited to be here.
Okay, let's actually just tell the audience what we're going to talk about. It is something called Theranostics that can help those that are going through cancer. And everybody knows what chemotherapy is. I mean, you say the word chemo, everybody knows. But if we said Theranostics to most people, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to start at the very beginning, the very basics. Tell my listeners what Theranostics is.
Yeah, everybody knows the standard treatments. Chemo has been around for 60 years. It's still the standard of care for metastatic cancer. And so Theranostics is a super exciting new field of medicine that falls under precision medicine and precision oncology. Theranostics, it's actually a combination of two words, therapy and diagnostics. And so that's where the word comes from, because it really allows physicians to better see cancer in the body as well as treat cancer in the body, because it's focused on the cellular level. And so what's really exciting about this new field is that scientists, researchers have identified that cancer cells have unique biomarkers that are 1,000 times more expressed on cancer cells than other healthy cells. And this is where it's different than chemo. We can kind of get into that. But Theranostics itself uses these biomarkers and then molecules that are attracted only to those specific biomarkers. So you're talking about viewing cancer and treating cancer at a cellular level. And that is super unique. There's a bunch of different reasons. It's not a coincidence that it's coming here. It really stems from the fact that we mapped the human genome 20 years ago. And so now we understand what's inside the body so much more. And so now scientists and researchers are able to come in and identify that. But Theranostics really is just a targeted, super hyper targeted approach to viewing and killing cancer. And so super exciting a field of medicine right now, for sure.
People might be listening thinking, well, isn't that what chemotherapy is? Like we go in and kill the cells. And so let's go back a little bit and explain what chemotherapy is.
Yeah, when I first started doing research, everybody knows what chemo is. You get sick and it kills the cancer, but it also kills a bunch of cells. I started to do some research on it. Literally 60 years ago, it was discovered because of mustard gas in the war. Like that's what chemo is. I mean, it's just wild. But the way the science behind chemo is that chemo kills fast growing cells. And in your body, cancer is one of the fastest growing cells. The problem is there's lots of other fast growing cells in your body as well. And so it's not targeted. It's killing fast growing cells. That's why your hair falls out, because hair follicles fast growing, your stomach lining is fast growing. It's why you get so sick. And so that is how chemo works. It's not intelligent, and they're trying to do mixes and cocktails of chemo, but ultimately my chief medical officer, his name is Dr. Frankie Almagel. We call him Frankie. And he likes to say that chemo is like a blowtorch and you're just burning down the forest to kill a couple trees, whereas Theranostics is a lightning strike to kill very specific trees. And that's truly what it is. And, my patients every day, they're talking about like not wanting to do this 60-year-old treatment for their cancer. They want something new. They want something better. And I remember the first time I ever had a conversation with someone that was taking Theranostics and using Theranostics. I was on a FaceTime with Frankie in Germany with a patient, and he had been through a bunch of chemo. and it didn't work for him. And so now he was in Germany being treated by Frankie with Theranostics, and he was just kind of like shocked because he didn't feel sick. He had the IV because it's an IV treatment, and he was like, I just feel healthy and I feel better. Like, I'm so used to feeling terrible when I'm getting treated. And that's one of the things that Theranostics unlocks, is this ability to concentrate on all these other areas around your health when you're being treated with cancer. And that's just a completely different paradigm from traditional methods where it like makes you sick and it makes you feel terrible, but hopefully it's killing the cancer as well.
Okay, so that's a great analogy about a blowtorch to the forest to kill just a couple trees. And instead, diagnostics is like the lightning strike that hits the trees. Such a great analogy. And so, man, I have so many questions for you. I don't even know where to begin. But let's begin with, you said he was doing it in Germany. So, is this done in Germany
Yeah.
and the EU and places like that, and just new to America, or is this available in America?
Unfortunately, in the U.S., we are used to being the best and the most innovative, and in many industries that is the case. Not the case in medicine. Unfortunately, it is just not the case. And so, my chief medical officer has been treating patients in Germany and Australia for 5+ years, hundreds of patients, mainly from the States that we're taking over there. Now, it was recently a drug called Pluvicto by Novartis was recently approved here in the United States, FDA approved, sorry, FDA approved here in the United States for prostate cancer specific. And so we are working through the bureaucracy of the American health system. And so we have a facility in Las Vegas. We have a couple facilities in California. It's just much more expensive, quite honestly. It's just much more expensive to treat here. And so a lot of times patients are wanting to just pay cash for the treatment. And so we take them overseas because the exact same medication is just cheaper. It's almost a third of the price overseas. And so when patients are, not only have we been doing it overseas because it was approved before, but even now, when patients don't want to jump through some of the hoops that the FDA still has in place for Theranostics because it's so new, at least here in the United States, that is why we go overseas. And so, yeah, we absolutely can treat patients here in the US. We absolutely can do that, but it's more advanced and been doing it longer overseas simply because of the bureaucracy. And that's, I kind of referenced at the beginning why this conversation will save lives. It absolutely will. It's because 90+% of our patients hear about Theranostics from a friend or a family member. I just sat down with Bill Power, one of our patients, just a wonderful human. And you can see the interview on our website. And we just kind of walked through his story. But he had been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. It was a death sentence. He was looking down like at my options of chemical castration or 88 straight days of radiation and chemo and all these other things. And he just didn't feel good about that. And so he kind of resigned himself like, hey, this is my lot in life. This is what's going to happen. And he was golfing with a buddy, and his buddy had just read an article about
Mhm.
one of our patients, and our chief medical officer, his name was Alan Held, the patient, and this buddy of Bill Power is the name of the patient that I interviewed. His buddy said, hey, you need to go check this out. There's just a story right now in the Orange County Register. Like, you need to check this out. And he did, and he tracked down Alan. And then a couple months later, he was in Germany, had 2 treatments, and the cancer is gone. Right. And
Wow.
so it's an incredible story, but that is why right now it's going to take years, probably 5 years, to get through the bureaucracy before physicians know everything about it, understand it, and are recommending the treatment, simply because how our healthcare system works, and it's insurance driven and these kind of things. So, long answer, but that's where it's at right now.
It will take 5 years through bureaucracy, but through social media, we can get the word out now that there's other treatments than chemo that are much more effective. And it sounds like has way less side effects, because you were saying that the patient was hooked up to an IV and he was like, oh, I'm feeling great. I don't feel sick like the chemo. And so let's talk about that.
Yep.
do you not have those terrible side effects that you normally
Yeah.
have with chemotherapy?
So let's just kind of understand those types of side effects, throwing up and losing your hair. That's not because of the cancer. That's because the medicine slash poison, literally, controlled poison that's being put in your body. That's what causes those side effects. So there's other things that cancer does, but a lot of times people don't even know because they don't feel that they have all this cancer. They get tested and then they see that. So a lot of the side effects are from that. So Theranostics absolutely does not have those same side effects because it's not killing those healthy cells. So there's a reason why there's not those side effects. It's not just kind of like natural, you just have to get all these terrible things. Well, when you're not putting that specific type of poison, it's not killing those types of cells, you're not going to have those side effects. So we do see patients drowsy for a couple days, sometimes dry mouth and some of these things, but I mean, they're very, very benign when it relates to other things. And one of my favorite things about Theranostics, and we've had these conversations, is that because you are healthy and getting healthier because you're killing the cells that are causing terrible things in your body, it unlocks all these other wonderful things that you can do as a person to be healthier. And when you get cancer, breast cancer and prostate cancer and all these types of cancers, your body gets hit and you need particular specific nutrition components. Your mental health is severely affected. You have all these other things. But if you're sick every day and you're throwing up and your hair's falling out, you don't care about what you're eating. You don't care about some of these other things because you're just trying to stay alive. And that's one of the most exciting developments about this is those lack of side effects not only improve the quality of life, but open up so many other things for you to be healthier than you were just before the diagnosis, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. So I have a lot of listeners who are going through cancer or family members are going through cancer. They're trying to educate themselves on, what to do. And so I'm sure they're thinking, why in the world do we not have this for every cancer then? And so that's my next question is, does Theranostics work for
Yeah.
every type of cancer or only certain types?
Every type of cancer will be able to be treated with Theranostics because every type of cancer has specific biomarkers. And so, like right now, we're in a clinical trial with 12 different types of cancer: breast cancer, colon cancer, brain cancer, and not only cancers, other types of conditions and sicknesses. So, yes, the answer is yes, Theranostics. The problem is scientists and researchers have to identify the biomarkers and have to have the molecules that bind only to those biomarkers. So there's a process. And then the FDA takes years of clinical trials. And so here in the United States, it's just going to take a while. Every type of cancer, absolutely 100% will be able to be treated because there are biomarkers that are unique and we can understand those things. It's just going to take some time. And these treatments will be available overseas before they're available here. That's just the truth. And so that's why we take our patients wherever they need to go in the world to get this. And we have relationships with hospitals and locations all around the world so that when a patient comes to us, no matter where they're at, we're going to say, hey, here is the most cutting edge science. Here's the most cutting edge molecules and isotopes and medication. We're going to get you healthy, and here's what we're going to do. So that is the current state and kind of where it's at in the life cycle of drug development and research and R&D and all of those things. It's why research is so important in this field, because you got to be in the lab doing the hard work, identifying those biomarkers, identifying the molecules, and really putting them together in a meaningful way that saves lives.
Okay, so let's just clarify this for the listeners. So is this Theranostics available for every cancer overseas right now, or we're still developing the process for all the different cancers?
Yeah, very much still in development. So we're in clinical trials for a handful of, there's clinical trials to just see if it's effective, and then there's clinical trials for FDA approval, right? So it's not available for every cancer yet. We are treating many different types of cancers in these clinical trials, because that's what it is. It's treating those patients and then tracking it and doing all the documentation. So we're seeing really good progress. But yes, it is not available for every cancer yet. Every month, every couple months, that is improving, and we're getting more and more progress. And so, by the time somebody watches this, if it's a couple months from now, there's going to be new cancers being treated. That is absolutely how fast it's moving. It's just whether or not it's going to be available here in the U.S. and paid by insurance. And that's one of the biggest problems, is how expensive it is without insurance for some of these cutting edge types of treatments. And that's just kind of going through the process of insurance and Medicare and FDA and all of these components.
Okay, but here in the US, Theranostics is approved for one type of cancer so far, correct?
Yeah, when we say approved, it's important to understand we are treating patients, breast cancer and a bunch of other things, clinical trials here in the States. When we say approved by the FDA, you can get it approved in lots of different ways. Approved by the FDA allows the government and Medicare to say, we will pay for it. We will pay for that for a stage 4 prostate cancer. That's the only cancer is that is approved and paid for by insurance right now is stage 4 prostate cancer. But Theranostics itself is being done for many different types of cancers. You just have to either pay cash or you have to qualify for clinical trials. And if you qualify for clinical trials, a lot of those costs are taken care of for you. But it's just less of a proven method. And, it's just the clinical trials are what clinical trials are. And so you have double blinded and all these different areas. But certainly you can get the treatment here. FDA approval is more around insurance and the general public feeling like, okay, this is safe and it's tested and those things. But there's nuances to what FDA approval really means. And it's certainly right now for prostate cancer, it's around it being able to be paid for by insurance.
Okay, so this is so interesting. I don't think most Americans know this. And like you said, it's probably because of the bureaucracy and we just haven't gotten the word out. It's new. So let's say someone has colon cancer. Let's just pick one. They've got colon cancer and they're like, wow, I want to try this Theranostics out. Like maybe this could help rather than the terrible chemo I'm going through. Where do they even start? Because if they just went to their
Yeah.
oncologist, is their oncologist even going to know what it is or where to send them?
It's so unlikely that their oncologist or their primary care physician even knows that it exists. And I'm not trying to be simplistic or minimizing it, but literally we were on a call yesterday. Frankie was instructing fellows at Loma Linda University, oncologists, surgical oncologists, and they never have even heard of it.
Wow.
And so it's like, so unfortunately it's going to be years, because if you understand how physicians are not researchers, right? They are just trying to help as many patients as they can. And most of the time it's a checklist. If you have this condition, here's who we send you to, and it's just decided by people higher up and insurance and what they can bill and who will pay for it makes a huge difference. I'm not saying physicians are terrible, and they're certainly not dumb, but they do not have the time to spend researching all these cutting edge, procedures and medicine. They just don't have the time right now. Our system's overburdened, and so it's a product of the system. So that is why you can come onto our website, provadohealth.com, and literally fill out the form and say, here's what kind of cancer I have, here's what it is, and we will have a conversation with you and really help you understand, hey, this is a clinical trial that you can be a part of, or we can treat you in Australia, or we can treat you in Loma Linda or in Las Vegas or whatever. So it really kind of, we are the experts in Theranostics. I will not be humble and say that is not our jam. We are absolutely experts in Theranostics and the cutting edge science. We're doing our own research. We're involved in a bunch of clinical trials. So there's probably no organization that knows more about it than Provado Health, because it's our only focus. That's all we do. And so that's what I would say. Unfortunately, you're probably just not going to hear a lot from, and here's what's even worse, Carlin. And Bill Power has the same experience. We talk about it on my interview with him. They're probably going to get a response from them saying, oh, that's junk, or that's too experimental, or that's not even been proven. So not only is it probably neutral, there's a huge percentage of the time where they're going to say, hey, I found this new thing. And they're going to go, that's crazy. Just stick with what we know. Well, no, that's not good enough, right? Like 60 years ago, we were doing the exact same thing for cancer. Like it's just not good enough. And the good thing is we do have really, really great opportunities out there. But yeah, go to the website, do research, Google it. There's tons of really good resources. We try to compile a lot of good resources on our website so that you can just see what's happening and whatnot. But there's a lot of good information out there. But right now, it's on the patient and their families and their friends to really be able to have that, because they're probably not going to get it from their physicians yet.
I always tell people you've got to educate yourself to empower yourself. And here's another example of educate yourself of all the options that are out there because your doctor may not know about them. And so I have quite a few more questions. But first of all, so if people have a cancer that they want to try this Theranostics, they're going to go to your website and fill out the clinical form. But can they fill it out if it's even
Yeah.
like a rare cancer, like let's say bile duct cancer or esophagus cancer? I mean, I've been hearing about weird cancers lately. Can they, any type of cancer, fill this form out and you guys will help put them in a clinical study or something?
If there's a clinical trial and we will do the research to understand if that's not something we're already doing, if somebody else is doing it, yes, absolutely. We will figure that out. It's just more around, we can be a resource to you. We can be a second opinion, a first opinion, a third opinion, but we have a team who is ready to have those conversations. And there may not be a trial with a brand new type of cancer. Unfortunately, that may not be something. But there are sometimes biomarkers, we're seeing biomarkers that work on many different types of cancers. So even if there wasn't a specific cancer that had its own clinical trial, it might be similar to breast cancer or colon cancer or something else where the similar biomarker will work. Because I think what's really important, if we start thinking about a paradigm shift, it's not about, oh, you have breast cancer, so we're going to chop off body parts and hope it kills that cancer. It's about what type of cells do you have that are positive for specific types. And that's really the future of cancer care. It's not labeling it around the body parts that we're going to chop off or try to remove or whatever. Let's take it at the cellular level. And at the cellular level, it doesn't matter what you're calling it, prostate or breast or whatever. There's going to be consistencies around there. And that's really the future of that precision oncology, is at that cellular level. And so a lot of these cells and cancer cells are derivatives of others and have similar biomarkers and ways that we can target them.
Okay, so let's talk about these biomarkers. So let's say someone has colon cancer. Before they do Theranostics, they have to go in and get their biomarkers tested, correct? To see what is going on in their body. But will all colon cancer people have the same biomarkers or no?
Yeah, so there's different types of tests that you can do, blood tests and different types of things but let me just give you an example for prostate cancer. So with prostate cancer, you have a PSA level, and that's just a blood test that says how much PSA do you have in your body, right? But then there's something new that is using that very specific biomarker called PSMA, so prostate specific membrane antigen, and we have to do a PSMA PET CT. And remember, that is already Theranostics, because that's the first half of it, the diagnostic side of things. We like to say we treat what we see and we see what we treat. And so that diagnostics part is a really important part of it. In every cancer, there's going to be different types of things. You can do biopsies, or you can do blood tests, or you can do advanced PSMA PET CTs, or different types of biomarker CTs. And so there's lots of different ways to find that out. But the diagnostic part is the first stage, right? Before you're even treated, because that's what helps you understand. Because let's say you have prostate cancer and you have advanced PSA levels, and you get this PSMA PET CT and you find out it's nowhere else in the body. That's amazing news. That is phenomenal news. But if you do a biopsy on your prostate and you have a ton of cancer in that prostate, and the answer is, okay, well, let's do hormone therapy, or let's remove that prostate, but you never went to the next stage and did a PSMA PET CT, and now it's in your bones and in your brain, and nobody even knew it because they weren't even looking for it. Well, then all of a sudden you have these situations where people are like, "Oh, my PSA went down after surgery because we removed a big chunk of it, but now it's way back up because you didn't get it all. It didn't just magically come back. You didn't get it all in the first place." And that's where you're seeing more and more tests and more of these specialty, medication and different type of radioactive isotopes that can come in and really help identify where you actually have the cancer. And then you can make sure that you're treating it in the most efficient, best way, as opposed to chopping off a breast because you think it's only going to be localized there. So it's just really important that you have all the knowledge and all the information so that your physician and you can make the right decision, right? And that's what this is about, more data, so you can make better decisions about your own health.
Okay, so I know my listeners are thinking, okay, let's talk about breast cancer. So you figure out the certain biomarkers so that you can target just those bad cells, not the good cells. And so
Yep.
is Theranostics going to target those bad cells throughout the entire body, not just in the breast?
Exactly. It's exactly right. The cells are the problem, not the breast. Not even the lumps, right? There are very specific tumors that you can make benign by having the dangerous cells killed, right? And maybe you still have to have them removed. Maybe it still makes sense, but it absolutely, that is the difference. It's about finding them all over the body, right? And understanding where you have that so that you know what to do. Not only do you know what to do, but you can actually kill that, right? You can kill the cells all over the body, and maybe you're not having to do surgery, and maybe you're not having to do some of these really other types of treatments that are just really, really hard on the body because it's not treating the problem. It's just trying to spread out all of the and just try to hit as much as you can, hoping you also kill the cancer. And we're better than that now, right? We have better science, we have better technology, we have better diagnostics. That just doesn't need to happen anymore.
I've always thought that. I'm like, it is 2024. Why are we still using the stuff from 60 years ago, like you've said multiple times? But I have a question because, like you said, the oncologists are going to be like, oh, we don't have enough science on this. We don't have enough data. But yet it's been in Europe for years. So we do have the science on it. But also, let's talk about how effective it is. We haven't touched upon that. Is this effective, or the oncologists don't think it's
Yeah.
effective and that's why they don't like it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers are there, and those numbers are improving every day. Like if I gave you a number right now, it would be less than what it's going to be in the near future because there's just more and more clinical trials happening. Absolutely, it is more effective. Like for prostate, which is what we have the most data on because we've been treating it the longest and whatever. You're talking about 88% success versus like 27% success when you're talking about like stage 4. So massive difference when it comes to the effectiveness. But like, for instance, when you label something, when you cure cancer, it's that there's been no reoccurrence of cancer for 5 years. That's what it's, that's like the very specific way to measure that. Well, if you're just treating a patient 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you're not even, even if they do not have the cancer, you can't say that it's cured, right? Because just of the time and those things. So really it's around not having the cancer anymore and the survival rate and the success rate and the quality of life. There's all these other metrics that people really care about. It's not just surviving. If you're horrible and you feel terrible every day, who wants that? It's also, do you feel better? Is your quality of life? Can you enjoy yourself? That's why a lot of people, they'll get the reoccurrence, they'll go through chemo and they'll do all the different things and they have a couple good years and then it comes back and they're like, screw it. I'm not doing it again. I'm not going through that again because the quality of life just didn't justify adding more time to that. And that is quickly going away, right? We have all these articles of people getting cancer younger and all of these things. We see this almost every day. Well, the universe is providing a counterbalance to that, which is this really wonderful, cutting edge way to treat really, really tough things that are happening in your body. And we're only getting better. It's only getting better as we start combining multiple types of treatments and you start combining nutrition and fitness and all of these other things that we know are so important to somebody's health. Well, if they're important to somebody's health, they're really important to someone with cancer, right? So that's why all of these things are happening, and yeah, really important.
Okay, wait a second. You said 88% effective for stage 4 prostate cancer, but only 27% effective. And were you implying 27% effective with chemotherapy?
Yeah. So when we talk about stage 4 prostate cancer, kind of a death sentence, stage 4 prostate cancer, the word is progression free survival. That is the term before curing, right? Is progression free survival, right? For the last couple hundred patients that Frankie has treated, we're at an 88% success rate, right? And that is when you're almost dead. That's when stage 4, almost dead. We're now starting to do it earlier, stage 1, stage 2, right? Where they are much more likely. We all know when you catch cancer early and you start treating it earlier, it's better for you, right? But because of FDA restrictions and some of these other things, it's been limited for hundreds of patients to stage 4, right? And so when you have stage 4 and you're doing chemo and you're almost dead, you get stage 4, and the survival rate is like 20 to 30%. It's just not great. And so you're seeing a huge contrast. And we'll have more data. I'm not up here trying to sell the world on Theranostics. You want to use data, but the data is there, right? And we're getting more and more data every single month. And it's really exciting. And you're getting phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, multiple drug companies, multiple types of medication. So you're seeing these things happen, and there's more and more data because more and more patients are being treated with this and going through that process.
Okay, a 27% effectiveness rate versus an 88% effectiveness rate is huge. So why in the world are we not like screaming this from the rooftops, and why doesn't everybody know about this, and why don't doctors yet know about this? I know you said bureaucracy, but we're not talking like a 25% versus a 30%. We're talking huge differences.
This is where I want people to do their own research, right? How many oncologists make their money from chemo? Just do the research of how they get paid. Do the research on, and what I'm not going to say are doctors are bad. I'm not going to say that, but they have families too. They have jobs. They need to support. If they know that this chemo is going to help them at maybe stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3, and it's just what they've always done, and they know they're going to be paid on it. They don't need to fight with anybody about those things. There's a lot of factors. I would just say do the research and understand the why the bureaucracy. But it's also important to understand, everyone here knows a doctor. They're not in the lab every day researching that. They don't get paid for that. Like, that's not what they do. And so they're not going to know about those things. A lot of physicians work for hospital systems. They don't make their own decisions. They are there to treat patients and to help them understand their options. Those options are very specific, but more importantly, what the insurance plans have been negotiated. Like, that's just the truth. It's just the facts, right? And so that is why really good, wonderful doctors have never heard about this treatment, because it's just not the system that we live in, where they have time to do their own research and understand all the different things. And even if they did, if they're employed by a system, they couldn't recommend it anyways. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, this is fascinating. I mean, everybody needs to think about that. But this new Theranostics, I think, is absolutely mind blowing. I think it's the way that we will go with, treating cancers and things like that. And everybody who's dealing with cancer should definitely look into it. Let's talk about the center that you have in Las Vegas. So it's called Provado Health, correct? What happens at Provado Health? Like, can anybody with any cancer go there? Is it only for certain cancers? Tell us about your center in Las Vegas.
So we have a temporary, location here in Las Vegas. We're building a center of excellence, an international center of excellence for Theranostics, where we're doing research and clinical trials and treating patients. But that's still under construction. It's probably about 6 months out. So we're hoping by the end of 2024 that we will have that. But we are still treating patients. It's just not in our own location. And then we've got partnership locations in California. And so the what we're planning on doing in Las Vegas, and what we are doing in Las Vegas, is so that anyone with cancer can come in and have general oncology if the Theranostics isn't available, or have these different specialties and get an opinion from everyone in one day, that they can have this, understand what truly are their options. And it's not going to be based on a very specific insurance. It's not going to be based on a very specific hospital plan. It's going to be, here's all the cutting edge science. Here are your options. And so that is absolutely, our focus is on the Theranostics center of excellence, and bringing more Theranostics treatment, because it's just superior to other types of treatments often, right? One thing in particular, Theranostics is really good for metastatic cancer that is throughout the body, right? There's some really good localized ways to treat cancer if it has not spread, right? Sometimes surgery is just the best way. And so that is what an important thing is, to really understand, not based on the restrictions of a hospital system or the restrictions of an insurance plan. Here are all your options, and here's what is the best path for you. And that's why we're working on trying to build nonprofits and all these different things, so that there's just less financial restrictions and barriers, and less knowledge barriers. And so that's what we're doing in Vegas. That's what we plan on doing, and we're really excited about that. Unfortunately, things just take a while to do, but we are doing that already in multiple locations. We don't need the specific location for that. If you go to provadohealth.com, you fill out a form, even if you don't know, or it's a family member or whatever, you'll get that type of information. It doesn't matter where you're at, right? We can do telehealth, and we can do the tests, and we can do all those different things. So that's an important understanding. People, they don't need to wait for the building in Vegas to be done, or those things, because we're signing contracts for locations all over the country. We're just in the process of doing that to try to make it more accessible and easier to get to, because some people can't travel. Some people are so sick they can't travel. So we've got to try to have options for them to get the tests and to get the treatments closer to where they're at.
That's incredible. This is so amazing what you're creating. So the buildings are not actually built and done yet, but all the things that will someday be at the building are done online through filling out your form and telehealth, or sending them to other clinical studies, even overseas, things like that. And so thank you for explaining that. But I still have just a couple more questions. We haven't talked about if this Theranostics is only for adults, or if it's for kids, elderly. Like, is it for all ages?
Yeah. So it's really based on the type of cancer that you have. Young kids are not getting prostate cancer, right? That is something that is more advanced, right? But there are brain cancer and lots of different types of cancer that kids get. So absolutely, this is not for whether it's kids or adults or elderly. It's about the type of cancer that human has, whether they are a year old or 100 years old. It's more around, do we have the biomarkers and the molecules that bind to those biomarkers for that specific cancer that they have. And like I said, the science is evolving every day, and we're having more and more clinical trials. So it certainly is for everyone. It's not just for the elderly or adults.
Okay, good to know, because I know listeners will ask that. But you've talked about Dr. Frankie, what you call him. You've talked about him a couple times. And so explain who he is. Is he the founder of this, or he's just promoting this? What is his role in this?
Yeah, so he's an MD PhD. He's on staff down at Loma Linda University down in Southern California. He isn't the founder of Theranostics. He's not the founder of the science. He does have some patents for specific molecules, patent pending, for breast cancer in particular. So he is one of the foremost authorities on the subject. It's not a patent on Theranostics. It's like individual drugs and individual things. That's what people can have patents on, and molecules. So he's not the founder of it. It's not his invention. He's just one of the foremost authorities, and we believe he's treated more patients in the United States than any other person in the United States. I mean, he's just been doing it for that long and is on the cutting edge. So he's the lead researcher for lots of different clinical trials. He is just all in on this in a way that most other people are just not at all, right? And so that's his role. I met him. I had Provado Health before Frankie came along, and we were helping develop outpatient surgical centers and different types of outpatient facilities. I was introduced to him because he wanted to build his international Theranostics Center of Excellence in Las Vegas. And he thought that it was, just a wonderful place to do that. And that's why we were introduced, because we're based in Las Vegas. And we fell in love from a business sense. I was absolutely captivated by what he was doing. And every day I was like, this is incredible. At first, I was like, this is not real. This is not true. I was absolutely a cynic. And the more people I met, the more patients I talked to, the more I understood about science. I was like, whoa, this is real. This is incredible. Nobody here knows about it. But it's being done all around the world, and Frankie is an expert in that. He's a rock star in the industry. When you go to different type of nuclear medicine, conferences and all the major companies, they all know Frankie. So it's it's the most incredible thing I've ever been a part of, professionally and personally. I'm so grateful to have met him. He's an amazing person. He's so wonderful. I can't wait for you to interview him. I think you need to interview him and just really get to the science. You're going to absolutely love him. He is a teddy bear. He's a genius teddy bear. I mean, he's just wonderful. It's incredible. So that's Frankie, and he's just continuing to grow when it comes to people knowing who he is and what he's doing and the science behind it.
He sounds incredible. Like you said, I would love to interview him. I just really admire people that their career is to help people. I mean, he is devoting his life to this new research and getting more data and more clinical studies to help more people. And he is out there trying to save lives. And so I love what he's doing, but I think it was meant to be that you two met up. And like you said, we are going to get the word out there so that we can save thousands of lives, because just like anything out there, there are multiple choices. I always do on my Instagram, like good, better, best. And this is a perfect example that there are good, better, and best treatments out there for the cancer. And maybe
Yep.
this is now the best rather than some of these older options. And so
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking about this and being on this podcast. What, though, do you wish that all people knew about cancer?
That there's an incredible amount of research and innovation happening right now. Like we said before, lots of people are going to read articles that say, oh, people are getting it at 40 and 50, and it's happening younger, and you need to get tested earlier. Just know that there are thousands of scientists and researchers and billions of dollars going into things that are working and exciting. And I'm around cancer every day. So it's a little bit scary, because it's like, oh, you're reading all these articles and all these terrible things. But I'm also incredibly optimistic at what is happening in the field. And, it's not a coincidence. There's things that started happening 20 years ago and 10 years ago and 5 years ago. There's very specific reasons why these innovations are happening. And maybe there's a bigger plan involved. Who knows? But the whole point is that there's wonderful things advanced. We don't need to be scared around this unknown cancer that's just going to kill everybody and it's killing younger. We have a counterbalance to that. And there are an army of researchers and physicians and wonderful people that are bringing these to life. That's what I want people to know about cancer right now.
I am so glad you said that because actually, I read an article the other day of it was asking people what their top thing that they are afraid of in life. And one of the top things was cancer. And so cancer is a really scary word. And so I love that you are saying that you're optimistic about it, that there's hope, that there's healing out there, and not to be afraid of it. Before we wrap up our show, though, is there anything that I've missed asking you about theragnostics that you think is important for people to understand, or did we hit it all?
Yeah, I think we covered it. I mean, you're an excellent interviewer, and you certainly knew what to ask. Yes, I think that we covered those things. I don't think there's anything specific that we didn't cover. There's lots to research. There's lots of resources. That's the number one thing I want people to do is find out about this, understand what your options are. We try to make it easy by having lots of articles and research and information on our website, but find out. Don't leave this, because every listener that listens to this knows somebody with cancer, knows somebody who's going to get cancer. Like, it's just 100% of the people. So educate yourself. Be the person, the daughter, the wife, the son, or whatever, that has a solution. Look, grandpa, look, sister, look about this new stuff that's happening all over the world, and be that person.
Oh, I love that so much. And you know what I love about this also, we didn't really touch upon it. You did a little bit, but you taught what Theragnostics was, but then you've also taught that your Provado and your company will be very much so. Look, there's nutrition involved, there's lifestyle factors that are involved. There's lots of things in keeping your body healthy, whether you're going through cancer or not, but especially while you're going through cancer. And we could do a whole podcast on that because I think that's really important for people to understand is that you've got to treat the whole body during these treatments as well.
Absolutely. We call it whole health here, and there's lots to learn. There's lots to develop. We're in the process. It's one of the reasons why you and I met, was because of the nutrition side of things. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's very exciting. I'm incredibly optimistic at being able to help patients right now. Unfortunately, if you get cancer and you go to the oncologist, they're going to help you kill that cancer. They're probably not going to do much more. They're not going to give you a fitness plan. They're not going to give you nutrition guidance. They're not going to help you with your mental health. And if they do, it's one thing. We've identified 7 areas around whole health. And you're right. It's a whole other podcast, and hopefully we can have that discussion at some point. But that's what fires me up about it, is that these new types of treatments don't decimate your body when they're killing the cancer, which allows you to be able to say, oh man, yoga in particular is really good for men with prostate cancer, right? How many 67-year-old guys are doing yoga? They're just not. But we're trying to help them understand this is why it's great. And there's so much data and research. There's so much really good research around all those areas, nutrition and fitness and mental health. And there's just incredible amounts. And so we're trying to normalize that. Let's normalize a treatment plan that takes into account the patient, not just the cancer. And that's one of the things that I hope that Provado Health is known for, is this full 360-degree view of cancer and of patients with cancer. And I hope that that's what we are known for, not just Theranostics, but everything that is possible when treating a patient, when you have that type of view from the very beginning. Today, you're going to get your IV. Tomorrow, you're going to meet with your psychologist. And then you're going to meet with your nutritionist. And then your personal trainer. And it's just, this is the way it is, because we know this is what's going to help you. Gets me fired up. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I absolutely love that treatment plan, like how you're going to help people, because I have to tell you, this is a little side note. My followers on Instagram heard me sort of vent about this on Instagram the other day, but I don't know if you saw this. So I'm going to tell you, and everybody listening, this is why I think it's so important for people to educate themselves so that they can empower themselves to ask the right questions, figure out what they want, things like that. Because I spoke at a cancer convention last week and spoke to thousands of people. And afterwards, there was this panel where they could ask doctors and dietitians questions. And these cancer patients are just so hungry for so much information because they've hit rock bottom. They just want any help they can. And one patient asked, I just finished chemo. Well, I finished chemo about a year ago and I'm still having digestive issues. Is there anything I can do for that? And the doctor responded with, well, not really. That just is a side effect of chemo and just something you'll have to deal with. And I was like ready to pull my hair out because I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do to help your digestive tract and your gut. And then the next lady asked, I've been reading a lot about the microbiome. Can you tell me how this plays a role? And they answered, well, we don't have enough science on the microbiome yet, so we don't really know how that plays a role. And I, again, was like, okay, we don't even have to talk about the cancer side with the microbiome, but we can talk about how you need to help your immune system while you're going through chemotherapy, and taking care of your gut and your microbiome will play a huge role in your immunity. It will help with your energy. And so I was like, oh my gosh, people, you have to educate yourself because the doctors don't know it all. They don't know the nutrition. Um, they don't know everything. And I'm not knocking doctors by any means because my dad was a doctor and my sister and
Right.
sister-in-laws are nurses. And I'm very thankful for them and for, the role that Western medicine plays. But it was very eye-opening to me that we have to be educated as people when going through any illness.
I have a moral imperative. I feel a moral imperative to take that holistic 360 approach because they're not getting it anywhere else. And if we can interview the best nutritionists on the planet and the best fitness experts in mental health and understand how the lens of a cancer patient and do that, that's a hill I will die on because it's such, physicians are experts. There's only so much capacity to understand and to be able to treat all these different things. So it's not like a physician can know everything. That's just not even possible, right? So it's okay that they don't know that. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them an idiot. It doesn't make them any of those things. They're very, very good at very specific things. They can't be good at everything. It's just impossible. So one of the things we're trying to do at Provado is let's bring experts in all those different areas and work together for the patient, because that's crazy to say, no, there's nothing we can do about that. That's crazy. Everybody
Yeah.
understands that that's crazy, right? So, but we've got to figure that out, and we're going to figure that out.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to air this podcast and get the word out there about other treatments for cancer. I really appreciate you taking the time being here. I always end my podcast with asking my guests what they think is the best ingredient in life. What would you say it is?
Well, I think that it's about an optimistic approach for learning, right? Being excited about learning and understanding and not having too many filters or middlemen between you and the truth. We see that in medicine. We see that in lots of different flourishing fields. Don't let too many people be between you and the truth. Put in the work, understand, and that's in every aspect of your life, right? I think it's too easy to go, well, this person said this, and so I guess I'm just going to take it like that, right? And so the optimistic pursuit of knowledge is what fuels me every day and makes me excited, and so I would say that's what I would say is the best ingredient of life.
I love that so much, especially for those that are struggling with cancer. That is a perfect ingredient for them. Remind my followers where they can learn more about you because you mentioned the website, but are you on social media as well?
So the company's on social media, Instagram, and all the social medias and LinkedIn. I'm only on LinkedIn. I can only handle so much social media. So I'm on LinkedIn, but our company is everywhere. ProvadoHealth.com, like that's a really good place to start. Because we've got a YouTube channel, we got all these different things, but it's all consolidated there on the website, and so you can see patient testimonials and read about the science and learn about Frankie and all of those kinds of things. So we try to consolidate that to be a nice resource for this incredibly new field of medicine. And so but yeah, we're on all the socials and we're trying to improve and get out on more and more of those socials. But provadohealth.com is probably the best place to start.
Okay, great. Also, for those that are listening, go to that website because they do have a little video on there that explains Theranostics so well. And so you could just share that video with whoever is dealing with the cancer, and it gives a great explanation as to how it kills the cancer cells. And it's very basic and not overwhelming and does a great job with the science. And so start there, share this podcast with others, share their website with others, because like Chad said, we all know someone dealing with cancer, and maybe we are the missing link that will give them the hope or the healing that they need. And so thank you again so much, Chad, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carlin. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.